Hey, it's only fair that I clear up my hatred for Kamala Harris. There's no way in the world I would ever vote for her. Her. And the woman is someone who I never liked. Never, ever liked. From the beginning of her public rise. Being from the state of California, her choosing her career as a prosecutor, there's no way I could ever support her in any way. But I had heard about her and unconsciously disliked her because I knew that she was on the side of the police. So I never really thought too much about her as a political. I don't look at prosecutors and attorney generals and district attorneys. I don't look at them as politicians. I don't look at them that way. They are usually grouped with Republicans and lean Republican because Republicans will fund the shit out of whatever anybody who's locking up black people wants to do. So I understand why, but the thing that bothers me about Kamala is that she's not a good attorney general, and she's not a progressive. She's regressive as an attorney general in California, and that's why I got my problem with her because I'm not going to speak on nobody else. I'm not going to speak on what happened to someone else or what somebody else told me or what someone else did. I bought a home in the city of Compton and lived in it for 14 years with no issues ever. Never had an issue. Sold the home, moved into a more of the suburbs, the outskirts of the LA basin, get out the city, a bigger house, a lot nicer things. And in 2015, when Kamala Harris is the attorney general, my house gets raided. And I'm like in the kitchen, like I'm about to do in a little bit, but I'm about to go fry fish. And I was about to fry fish on that day. And you know, beating on my door and doing. I'm like, what the hell? So my daughter is sitting at the table. I'm having drinks. My daughter's I think playing on the computer or something or looking at the TV. I can't remember, but she went and answered the door, and I'm in the kitchen, and she came back and she said, "Dad, they want you." And I was like, okay, I ain't even tripping. So I go to the door and I'm looking down as I'm walking toward the door, and the first thing I see is the I don't know if you call him a police officer or a goddamn paratrooper. I don't know. That motherfucker had on body armor and shit. So I was like, oh shit, what the hell? He had his boot in my door. So my daughter couldn't close the door. And I was like, oh no. The door was open. And I don't know if the door was unlocked or if my daughter opened it because I leave the door unlocked, Anyway, I don't know more. But his boot was in the door. So I was like, man, what the fuck? So I was like, what's up? So he holds up a like a search warrant for my house. It's fictitious though, but it looked, it had my ID and all that on it. It wasn't a search warrant. It was some other bullshit that they had intentionally drawn up to look like a search warrant. Well, I was like, yeah. And then I'm like, what are you doing? How do you live here? And I was like, how do I live here? What you mean, how do I live here? And it's like, how do you live here? What do you do to maintain this house? I was like, whoa. I'm like, man, what the fuck? So I pushed the door back. What are you talking about? I got all indignant and shit. And the dude, um, once he kind of stepped in the threshold of my doorway, these dudes, let me tell you guys, this wasn't like no, it was like what you see on TV with police raids, but you at home and they got like assault rifles. They didn't have like handguns or a shotgun. They had like, and I was like, I seen him and the dude behind him on the porch. Then I look around the corner behind him when they're inside my house, and I got like five or six of them, and the three vehicles. And I was like, oh shit! All I could think about was my neighbors. I'm like, man, at the time, I'm fully full time employed, paying taxes, doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, like I have done my entire life. Anyone who knows me, that's all I do. Go to work and take care of my family and come back home. That's what I do. And the incident that happened to get me on the wrong side of the law was a fight, and it was over someone who I love a lot, and they was being disrespected, and it turned into a fight. Had many of them in my life over similar situations, but in this fight, someone was injured, and you can understand the legalities and what they had to do. They do what they do and all that. I get it, but almost, and I would say 15, 16 years after a particular incident, no probation, no parole, no paperwork at all attaching you to any of this, and they show up at your door randomly, and then they'll be like, we came over here twice already. Where you been? And I was like, what do you mean where I've been? Nobody ain't make no appointment or nothing. Where I been? Yeah, we knocking on the door and we can't get a hold of you. I'm like, man, I'm not on probation or parole or nothing. I'm getting done like this. So the first two dudes come in, handcuff me, and sit me in my loft upstairs, and the other ones start going through my house. And I was like, not tripping. All I had in my house at that time, I think, might have been a little bit of weed, and it was for personal use, and a shotgun, and it was my dad's because he was getting kind of onset of dementia. My dumbass brother brought the gun to my house because he had little kids, and my kids are adults, but he had little kids. I want that gun around my kids. So I was like, all right. So I put it in the closet. They find the gun. I'm like, oh shit. I get arrested. My wife coming home right at the time. I'm like, she crying, what's going on? And I was like, oh, man, these motherfuckers here. You know what I'm saying? And I couldn't even tell her the story because they was like, in custody of me at that time. So I'm like, they picking locks and busting open my little safe in my closet. It's like it's more of a novelty than it is a real safe. I don't think a real criminal would have had the kind of time they had getting into it. But anyway, do you have a combination? No, no, no. Never mind. Get Chester. Chester, get that safe open. Chester just finished training. And looking at me like, motherfucker, I don't give a fuck. Bragging to me. Chester just finished. That motherfucker in there working away on that safe or whatever. I was out there like, man. And I didn't even think the shotgun was in there. I wasn't even thinking about anything. I was like, this is just such of a. I guess if the shotgun had not been in there, I would have sued him. But the shotgun was in there, and they arrested me. So I went to jail under Kamala Harris. It was a task force that she had put together to find out what happens to these black guys who don't reoffend. What happens to them? They end up in the middle class. Nobody never bothers them again because they don't reoffend. You don't catch them. So she wanted to catch them. And she caught me with a gun in my house. It wasn't it was my gun, but it was my dad's. It wasn't like I was getting the gun to go rob a bank, or I was out in the street with the gun, or that it was going to be in my house forever. But understanding that not only do you have to live a good life, a clean life, a lawful life, but you also have to like go even beyond that, because you got someone like Kamala Harris who claims to be black doing that kind of thing where black men could even get caught in a dumbass net like that. I was like inches from losing my job. I had a really, really good job. Um, it was a horrible time in my life. I had to go to work and tell a supervisor about the situation, who I've been talking shit to since I met him, because I wouldn't giving up an inch, because I was at work standing my ground, because I had a solid foundation to stand on. And then for that to be taken away from me, and I had to go to work and act different because I was relying on this guy to give me some consideration so I could maintain my employment. Because Kamala Harris decided to have my house raided and find out what I'm doing. Like you ever been going through YouTube and you pull up your favorite star and you go, where are they now? And then they go and they pull up someone from the past, and you find out what their life is like now, what they're doing. Did they do good? Did they do bad? Well, she was doing this shit, but with criminal records and with coming into people's homes and shaking their fucking lives up. That's some wrong shit. I don't care what nobody say. Do you know how many white people don't get their insurance companies or their tax businesses? You know how many financial businesses white people own, and he's just a little guy in a suit with a plaid overcoat and his little bag, and he's going in and out to work unassumingly all day. Nobody investigates these guys because they fall into a profile. They're white, they're business owners, and they're Americans, and don't nobody fuck with them. And we ain't got those credentials. Americans of all kinds should have those same credentials, and we don't. When you ain't been involved with the law intentionally. When I was young, I was a person who had contact with the police, but it was because I wasn't trying to avoid the police. I was doing things that would probably make you a higher risk to have a contact with the police. But once you get a family and start living your life right for several years, decades, and they come bothering you for stuff, you looking at like, whoa, wait a minute, come on now, you assessing me, you trying to find out where I'm at and what I'm doing, and that there's no way that we could get out and not reoffend. That you're not giving us good education, you're not giving us economical opportunities, you're not giving us anything at all. Our politicians are up there playing against us. Our any black person in this country who has not figured out that every elected every that's 100% of black politicians in this country ain't on the take. We man, their lives are good, and that's what it boils down to. All you got to do is, and that's the picture they have of us, that they can just wave a little carrot and get you to jump up there. It works with so many athletes because they are physically gifted. They are talented more so than anybody on the planet in the game or the sport that they participate in. And they relinquish that power to a person who probably can't even bench press 75 pounds. They relinquish it. They relinquish it. And then they turn around and try to lead us down the dark path that they didn't even go down a path that they to on relying on the government, relying on programs, relying on $6,000 for the first year of your child's life. Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck about $6,000 for the first year? What he's going to be? He got 18 years in his life, and so you've taken care of one of them. What are you going to do for the other? You know what I'm saying? But and even if she was willing to do that tax break on and on until the break of dawn or any of that kind of shit, it's still a crutch. And that's being reliant on the government. And originally we weren't. We were slaves. Release a slave, and the last thing in the world a slave is going to do is run to the government, because that's how they were enslaved legally. So the last thing, you're going to go somewhere else for help. You're going to live on the side of a road before you go look for help that way. But it took a lot of violence and despair. When you do everything that you know how to do and it works exactly the way it was meant to work. But another man comes along and crushes it and stamps it out and crushes it and stamps it out systematically. And then less than 160 years from the day we were freed, says things like, we don't deserve reparations. We don't deserve it. And then they put people up there like Obama and Kamala, and they expect us to follow them. And so many of us do. The majority of blacks do not agree with what I'm saying. The majority of black people really believe that Kamala is one of those people that you can just vote for her and she's going to take good care of it no matter what. We just have to trust her. And I don't feel that way at all, because I know how she is on a state level. So federally, I don't know. I don't think it would bode too well for black men. But there are some who believe it will be okay for them. And there's nothing I can do or would like to do to change their opinion. I like to have conversations, but hell, you might convince me. You might make me feel like, you know what? You being a baby, you shouldn't have had that in your house, and you should have never committed the infraction that you did in the first place. And anyone with that opinion would be a definitely a strong opponent for a debate against me, because those are good points. Those are good fucking points. All I can do is use a bunch of excuses. Well, I wasn't educated good. I went to Compton Unified School District, and I felt like I was gifted, but I was never really given opportunity to really do what I feel I should have done educationally. But that's my opinion. But one thing I will say is I know I had a good foundation, and I never veered far from it, and I always went back to it, and it always allowed me to get to a higher ground, a step up, a half a step up. It was always instrumental in me being able to go forward, because I knew where I came from, and I knew what I was used to, and I was used to not quitting, and I was used to not just sitting around doing anything. So I'm inherently just bred to do something, and going one step further and creating a YouTube channel is just to find out how many like-minded people there are out there, and to encourage you to look for people out there who speak like I'm speaking, and don't go to the people who are speaking ignorantly, that will keep you in a mental slavery that we have never gotten out of. Because our slavery enslavement was more mental than it was physical back then. I mean, you don't physically enslave people 100%. You have to use some psychological. You have to make them care for you. And a lot of the slaves did. A lot of the slaves protected their masters and snitched and all that shit. And that's what we're up against right now. We got Kamala Harris with all of our biggest stars. My heart is broken. Samuel L. Jackson. I never look at that motherfucker the same way again. Go out there looking. That is some bitch ass shit that these people are doing. Because I don't care who Samuel L. Jackson votes for, because he might even vote for Trump. I don't care who Spike Lee or Oprah Winfrey or Michelle Obama or any of these people vote for. But what I care about is that they're trying to trick other black people into voting for somebody who they know isn't in their best interest. Now, your vote might be in Obama's best interest. It might be in Oprah's best interest. It might be in Shaquille O'Neal's best interest. I get it. But it's not in your best interest. A vote for Kamala from a black person is not a vote in your best interest. She does not have us in her heart. And that's my only thing. I just can't stand her using the path that she's trying to use. You have to remember, if we just rewound the clock to 2019 and you walked up to most people and said half the things you're saying now, they'd just look at you and yawn. Like, so? They don't give a fuck. They wasn't supporting Kamala then. And now all of a sudden, the Democratic Party's little shit worked. I mean, I'd be saying, that ain't gonna work. It didn't work. Well, shit, it got half of the country supporting Kamala, where half of the country was not supporting Kamala. Half the country who are even supporting her don't even know nothing about her. Half of them people don't know shit about her. But it does work. It does. It does. But I never vote for her. And I'm telling y'all, why don't y'all be thinking this motherfucker crazy? All he do is sit up here and talk shit. Yeah, she sent motherfuckers inside my house and I didn't like it. And I never will. And yeah, that's why I never vote for her ass. And I hope she loses. And I hope she loses like a historically bad loss against Trump. All she do is get out there and whine and cry about what a terrible candidate he is. He's so bad. He don't like women, and he don't like cats and dogs. And you fill a town up with all them immigrants, and they start doing anything, and then you gonna try to flip it back on him. Them people wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for your border patrol or whatever you did down there. I don't know, but damn. And then you try to flip that on him so that you don't have to take the. I don't think you'd be a person who would be a good president. I don't think you're gonna own up to a lot of shit, and that's gonna be a problem. I think. Hell, but who am I? Black popcorn. Come back and see me again. That's is gonna have to be an ongoing situation. Looks like we're down to 2 weeks. Anybody who's still thinking about voting Kamala, go buy her book. She does have a book out. Learn as much as you can about her. See some of the wonderful pictures she has with her and grandma. It just almost looked like twins on that picture. You just gotta see it for yourself. But yeah, you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.